Good evening, and you're very welcome to episode, I think it's 24, I've lost count, 22, I can't remember, of the League of Ireland Women's podcast here on finalwhistle.ie with myself, Breffney Early, and of course, Aaron Clark back to join us. A bit of a special show, too, this week because of the week that's in it. It's Champions League week, and what a start to a double header of games in Athlone, a sellout crowd, a fabulous performance, 4-0. Aaron, we were both at the game. We're going to be chatting to Gordon Brett, their assistant manager. We'll also be hearing from Roisin Molloy, who was probably, she didn't get player of the match, but you could have picked any of the 16 players that played last night for Athlone. 2 goals, 2 assists, and a 4-0 win. It doesn't get much better than that. We'll hear from her later on in the show. Aaron, your thoughts on the game last night?
Even before I talk about my thoughts on the game, I've had the privilege of being in your company 3 times in a week.
Have we?
That doesn't happen very often. Yeah, listen, everything about last night was just superb. Unbelievable atmosphere. I got there a lot earlier than you, so I got to soak in a lot of the atmosphere. And like for me, I was there from about half five, and even early on, you could see the droves of the cars coming in, the crowd coming in early on. Like the one thing I would say is, normally we've seen when Irish clubs have sort of hosted it, they might get a couple of hundred. Like when Wexford hosted, they got a couple of hundred at it. To see 1,916 fans in Athlone Town Stadium last night to watch that game, it's the stuff you can only dream of. And the biggest thing for me is as well is they weren't the tickets weren't priced at like, oh, here's a fiver, here's a free, here's all the freebies, let's go. And they actually sold the tickets. That's the most important thing for me. They sold the tickets, they created an atmosphere, and the players responded, and it was probably an almost perfect night for Athlone, in the sense of they probably could have won it by a lot more, but it was the first hurdle of 2 jobs, and you know what? I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the atmosphere, and the Athlone crowd definitely gave the players that big boost last night.
Well, as much as we enjoyed the night, I know someone who probably hasn't stopped smiling in the 24 hours since that final whistle last night. And the assistant manager of Athlone Town, Gordon Brett, joins us now. Gordon, you're very welcome back to the programme. Congratulations. You must be delighted.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. You know, you see the fruition of all the work that's been done behind the scenes from when women's football was started in the club 5 years ago, I think, right up until, last night, Champions League football in my hometown, my home club. No, it's a massive, massive honour for me to be involved. But and I think as Aaron there in your little introduction said, like, the buzz, the excitement, sold out stadium. And I can talk about the history of it in European football later in Athlone. But no, it was a massive, massive boost to everybody. 1,916. It was like the Athlone Town Rising. Sorry, I had to say that.
It did cross my mind last night when I heard it. I was wondering how long it would take you to mention AC Milan, even though you didn't mention them directly. But we'll probably talk about that game in some time down in the next few minutes. Last night, when you kind of got involved with the club at the start of the year, I know you've been involved behind the scenes at various levels in the club for years, as a player and as a coach and as a member of the administration down there. How special was last night for not just the team and the bunch of girls in the squad, but actually the whole town and the whole football community? Because I met people, I stopped for food in Roscommon on the way home, and the place was packed of people coming from the games, young girls in Athlone Town scarves mostly. Probably it was all you could get your hands on at short notice to sell, but there was Athlone Town scarves. It was packed. It was such a good night for women's football in the Midlands. Could you even have dreamed of this 6 or 12 months ago when you kind of got involved?
No, we knew Champions League was in the back of our mind. And when I sat with Colin, who's doing a fantastic job, by the way, really has left no stone unturned in our preparations this season. But we really, really couldn't envisage that type of an atmosphere, that type of a result, just the way the game went for us. We were obviously clearly stronger than Cardiff last night. We will meet possibly a bigger challenge on Saturday night. But we couldn't have dreamed of that particular 4-0 win at home in Europe. You mentioned AC Milan. I was just a little bit too young to be brought to that game, but I was at the Copenhagen game. I was at the Standard Liège game. I have clear memories of Standard Liège. So that's just another piece in the history of the club. And I do remember when the stadium was being built. You'll remember, guys, St. Mel's Park and what it was. It had its own charm. But when the new stadium was being built, I used to go for a walk nearby, and there was a hill where the school is opposite. And I was able to bring my dog up there and look down and see the development of the stadium as the stand was being built, and then the outline of the pitch being sowed. And I often wondered what the potential would be and how big could this get, and would I be involved? And I said myself and Colin spoke about this beforehand. It's huge. It's history. It'll never be taken away from the girls that played. And, for me as a local man, with Colin being a local man, both having played for the club, coached at different levels in the club. Hazel Donegan came on last night. She's not long turned 18. For her to play Champions League football in her hometown, I don't think it gets any better than that.
You said there, about the women's team, the League of Ireland women's team. It's 5 years. Literally, it's not even 5 years to the day since Athlone played their first ever women's game when they played Wexford on the 15th of August in 2020. Like, being someone from Athlone, could you ever dreamed of 5 short years later, especially considering when you look at the League of Ireland when Athlone first come in, the dominance of the so-called Dublin clubs, because Wexford had their spell and sort of fell off. Could you ever dreamed of this happening?
I don't think so, but I mean, the genesis of it came with the first team in League of Ireland with Michael O'Connor getting the ladies football going in the club. Tommy Hewitt, the first manager, who kind of really guided it very well for the first couple of years. He wins the first trophies with the President's Cup was a big one. There was a penalty shootout. Great memories of that. I commentated that night. Then we had Kieran Kilduff comes along, wins our first league title, had won the cup the previous season when he took over. And so I suppose that naturally brought us to where we are. And no, to be honest, you couldn't really dream of that. But I suppose you plan for it if you can. That's the utopia. But it's here, Aaron. So we have to kind of ride the crest of the wave, and almost 2,000 people in the ground. It's unbelievable.
In terms of, let's talk about that for a second, because we all talk about money a lot on the show in terms of clubs and the expense that's involved, and really, I suppose, the lack of return. Last night, 1,900 people. I know the tickets for adults were about €20, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
There was kind of a tier 1 price. There was 20, but most adults could have bought a ticket for 15 last night.
Okay, so let's take an average of even €10 when you include kids and everything in the thing. Yeah. Like, does the club get to keep that money, or does it go into the pool? Does it have to pay some of the costs? Like, is that an opportunity for the club, both on last night and Saturday, to actually make a bit of, to cover some of the costs of the club going forward, and maybe to set a standard? If you get to the next level, there might be more opportunities to generate a few.
Yeah, we're not in the big money rounds of Europe right now. But yeah, we do keep, I think, a lot of that money from the gate. And I suppose we need to get through this next game, get to the next round, and hopefully stay in either Champions League or the new Europa League to kind of really tap into where the real money is in this European kind of football world. But so that is good. But I don't think the new ownership, and Nick Giannotti is the new chairman and kind of owner of the club, and I don't think Nick for a minute saw this as an opportunity to profit here. We now will, like, as of last night when the third goal went in, guys, ticket sales started going up the way, and by I think 20 minutes, I was told, after the third goal, we had 460 something tickets already sold for Saturday. Last count I was told today, there was just less than 500 tickets left at about 5:30 today. It's quite likely the sold up signs will go tomorrow. But look at the finance side of it, as you know, is very important. But it's not the be all and end all, because this has given us an opportunity to reconnect with fans that haven't been here for years. It was kind of a connection for me being at the Standard Liège game, all my memories of that. And I saw a lot of people in the ground, even at the men's game last Friday, but in particular last night, that haven't probably been at an Athlone Town game in a long time. And that's been more important for Nick, our new owner, because he wants to see a real connection with the community first. The finance stuff will come. That will follow if we get the club right.
Yeah, it does really show the possibility of what's there with the community if you can tap in. And I suppose there's been a lot of changes in the club in recent weeks. I know you mentioned Michael O'Connor, hugely influential in the starting of women's football in the club, and deserves credit for that. Yeah. And it hasn't quite worked out for him in recent weeks within the club, and I know he left the club in the last maybe month or so. what's the future looking like post that era of the club?
Okay, so at the moment, Nick Giannotti is new owner, and he's a very open guy. I know he'd be very open to coming on your podcast very soon. He's already done Between the Stripes and a few other bits, and so Nick I won't speak for him too much, but my dealings with him, he asked me to come in as director of football and head of academy, which I've agreed to do up until the end of the season, and then we'll review the situation. We're very close to an appointment for a new CEO of the club. He's put we're trying to put structures in slowly. I think he is going to be a very good leader of our club. But once we get the CEO position in place, I think that's when the club is going to kickstart. And I'm saying probably 4 to 5 weeks' time, probably about 5 weeks' time, you'll probably see that formal appointment. And I think that's when the club will get the structures off the pitch and on the pitch much, much improved.
You've sort of said there to us about before we started about dealing with other stuff in the build up to sort of and helping people looking for tickets, stuff like that. What's this whole build up been for the likes of yourself, for the likes of Colin? What's the build up been like into this Champions League? Because I can only imagine everybody wants you. You're doing so much within the club. What's that build up been like to sort of get to where you got the last night?
Yeah, well, again, we're looking to build the structures and then the football structures as well. Colin is working with a small enough background team, to be fair. And during the week, I think on Monday, he asked me, can we sort of divide up certain roles? And I kind of went and did a lot of the non-football stuff from that. He could really just focus on the football. We didn't want the players to be hassled about tickets all the way up to Wednesday. We didn't want them hassled by people like yourselves. But, we needed to keep the media thing just a little bit under control for them, that they could just focus on the game. So there was everything going on because we also have the men's team as well. So I had all that kind of running alongside it. I suppose myself and Ian Ryan speak probably 5 or 10 times a day at this stage. It's the same with Nick, the owner. Part of my role as director of football is to support both head coaches of the men's and women's team. There's an awful lot happening. Eamon Cunningham was a guy in our club who he'll be known to people inside the game. He's kind of pretty much the lead head administrator in the club right now, and I would safely say he's doing 16, 17, 18 hours a day every day for the last 2 weeks. It's incredible what he's done, and what happens out on the pitch only happens because of the people like Eamon, the unsung heroes who you'd never see him lifting a trophy, but he should be lifting them because he's an absolute he's a stalwart in the club. And there's lots more there. Liam Gaffey, our president, Lee Bulger did a lot of work around the stewarding and stuff. Lee is also the kit man for the men's first team. So there's lots and lots of people, and I kind of going to forget names here, but there's so many who've done so much work. Mick Keogh, Estelle Keogh, people in the shop outside. It takes the whole village to kind of to bring all this to a really good level, and we're on our way, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I suppose we've seen it maybe with Treaty as well, where and I suppose Peamount United, I suppose essentially too, where the women's team are almost the larger team or the more successful team in the club versus the men's. You're, I suppose, top of the women's Premier Division, struggling in the foot of the men's First Division. Is that a balance that you're going to try and address? I know we're not technically about the men's show here, but when we have you, what's the plan there in terms of balancing that up in terms of what the output from the men's side is?
Yeah, well, I think Nick, when he came in, his real priority has been the women just right now. But I can say there hasn't been an issue that has arisen with the men's first team that he hasn't supported Ian or myself with. But he does see right now that you take over a club and it's in Champions League football, it has to be a priority, which is brilliant for anybody who's really into the women's game, that they see a club that is putting as much into the men's or into the women's team as the men's right now. But that will be rebalanced, and I think every club, it has to be balanced. Shells are another big club. There are big rivals in the women's game. They're streets ahead of us in the men's game. But we have to walk before we can run. It just happens that right now our women are in a much stronger place with our squad, and the work that Tommy did when he got to the cup finals, Kieran took over. It was great. Both the guys were there yesterday. I spoke to both of them in the last couple of days. It's they're so proud of the club the way it is now. But yeah, it really is about, we do have to get the balance. The men's first team, I think, will be. It's been poor this season, to be fair, but we were in the playoffs the last 2 seasons. That was progress. We'll get back there next year, no doubt. Ian is the guy to do that. And then with the women's game with Colin there. But we recognise ourselves right now with the women's game. We need to strengthen our squad. We have a couple of girls ready to come in. Because we feel we'll struggle to win the league again this year if we didn't get reinforcements. So that's something that was a priority and that we've got to support with Nick on that also.
Interesting you say that, especially because everybody talks when they look at the likes of Athlone, and they talk with some players in Seychelles and Treaty about the foreign players who come in, but it's them homegrown players that you've brought through, you know, the bunches of them that are coming through. You can even look at your bench. You mentioned Hazel Donegan, young Isabel Ryan, Murphy O'Connor. You know, you've got all of them sort of young, the kids who are coming through. That must be, for someone in your sort of position who's been around the club for a long time, that must be the most pride thing when you see these players who've sort of started at a younger age at Athlone coming into the first team, getting involved in the Champions League as well.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier on, like I know Hazel's parents for a long time, and they're kind of my generation. And you know, for Hazel at 18 years of age to play Champions League football in her hometown is just incredible. She was coming on. I was saying, you're going to score. And she almost did with her first touch. I was just devastated it didn't go in. But she's a player that's developed very well. And the thing that we have to be careful with, though, Aaron, is that we don't expect too much from these players, because you'll know this, guys, that the under-19 league is a good league, but there is a massive jump from under-19s to senior women. It's probably bigger, I think, than the jump from men's under-20s to senior. So we have to nurture those girls, and sometimes we have to manage their expectations as much as anything else, because they, as you say, it's lifeblood of the club that if you can produce your own players through your own academy. You look at Kelly Brennan's at the club a while. Roisin was fantastic last night. Shauna Brennan has been at the club for a long time. And Maddie Gibson obviously is part of the furniture now in Athlone. So, all these players they're almost, it feels like Maddie is an Athlone person at this stage, but that gives us connection to the fan base, because these people are visible in town. But the American girls have really integrated themselves, and Maria, who's Maria, our other keeper, like Maria, for me, and this is me telling you, I think we've the two best keepers in the league in our squad. I'm not saying there aren't other good keepers, but they're absolutely fantastic, both of them. But they've knitted in, and it is important that those young girls learn from these players. But it is fantastic to get the academy players through, and to have them playing Champions League is just, it's the dream. It is the dream.
Yeah, I think we've mirrored that sentiment earlier on in the year when it was kind of a toss-up. I think one of them picked up an injury. Maybe Megan was out injured for a little while, and Maria played, or vice versa. I can't remember. But the fact that they're so good and interchangeable, you didn't notice which one was playing, because the performance was exceptional. And I would agree, they're definitely in this consideration for the top goalkeepers in the league. I suppose that's a bit of a problem though for the club, because we saw it with Peamount when they had two really good keepers playing alternate weekends. Between them, they kept more clean sheets than the other teams, but didn't get the individual honours because they only had half a season each. Looking forward, I suppose, I know we've chatted privately about recruits and players coming in, and we haven't seen maybe the anticipated signing or two ahead of this round of the Champions League, at least. Is that a disappointment?
A little bit, but there's some factors outside the control of the club. But I suppose we just have to keep our heads down and make the next round in Holland at the end of August, and hopefully have those players over the line then. There's one just work permit. Hopefully it'll be cleared up soon, and we'll be ready with a couple of new players. But also you can talk about those type of players. But Kate Slevin was on the pitch last night. Kate's back in the club. She's literally gone from an All-Ireland football semi-final straight into a Champions League game. I'm not sure too many people can have that boast. And she slotted back in like she was never away. And again, I've been watching her for a number of years at Athlone. She's a fantastic individual, fantastic player. And she's definitely helped us and strengthened our squad no end.
I think you're talking about players on the pitch. Let's actually talk about last night. The performance itself from your sides. Did you expect it? Or what were you expecting going into the game?
Obviously, we had a lot of footage of Cardiff. We had seen their last pre-season game as well against Plymouth. I suppose looking at the footage, sometimes it's difficult. It's a pre-season game, you know, with a fair idea, and Colin had done an awful lot of work on it. I felt confident that we were good enough to win the game, but could I have said 4-0? No. And to be honest, in the balance of play, we absolutely dominated the game. They really didn't get a chance. So I suppose, and they had more European experience than we have. I think it was their third season in a row at this level. But they did lose a couple of players, I think, recently to the UK or to the English League, WSL or that, and they tried to bring in a few. But no, you look at our overall team performance. There's, as you already said, Aaron, some brilliant individual performances, but the work rate and commitment and the togetherness was really what started it. That period when you dominate a team so much. We scored after nearly 15 minutes. The second goal was the big one. That was the nail biter for us, because you just don't know. We've dominated games earlier in the year where we made a little mistake and Treaty scored against us. It was the first goal we conceded from open play. And these things happen, even though and Treaty have improved an awful lot since then. They're a fantastic side. But you just can't rest on your laurels in the game. Once we got the second goal, there was a little bit of relaxing. And then you always want the third one, which came then. So, yeah, I've been having a running thing with Roisin about scoring with a header. And she came over at half time. She's going in. I said, "Did you actually score with a head?" So I think it hit the side of my face, but I'm giving it to her as a header. She's a great girl. I was delighted for her.
Yeah, no, I had the pleasure of working with her as a youngster at Sligo in her initial season, I suppose, before she made that move down to Athlone to play adult football. But she. You could tell even back then she was the captain of that side. She was the player of the year. She just had that little bit of hunger, maybe that players who had as much, if not even a little bit more talent than her, she just was prepared to put the work in when maybe the others were distracted by other things, didn't quite have the focus that she has put in over the last 5 years. She's become one of the best players in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, and she's probably not 100% even back yet, because she had a little issue, rib issue, put her out for a number of weeks. She's coming back to herself. Look, Breffin, you're a coach yourself, fullbacks and wingers. It's all about the 1v1s. And, she's lethal. I mean, I played left full back in the day, or I used to try, and facing a winger like Roisin Molloy is your worst nightmare. Absolutely.
That first goal, she I think she went past 3 or 4 when she turned before playing it back towards Izzy. Well, I was watching her, and even on the other side, Maddie as well. Just it was the sheer power, and once they seen they got half a bit of an advantage, they pushed on, and then even your midfield pushed up because you could see you were getting that advantage. The big question I have, and I asked Colin this question last night: did you actually allow yourself to enjoy it all?
I did, and I said it to him with about 3 minutes left in injury time. I actually said, and somebody said it to me today. I just stepped into we were in the technical area. I said, "Colin," I said, "turn around." I said, "Let's have a look up here," because I actually stood and actually just looked through the crowd like this. I was kind of looking at. I said, "We have to kind of savor this for now, because could be a different thing on Saturday night." So yeah, I did. I'm not sure if Colin does. He doesn't relax. He's the one on edge more than I am, probably. I'm supposed to be the balance there, to just probably that he can ask me a question, and sometimes I'm supposed to be the detached one. I think there was the Galway game, I don't think I was. I wasn't very much used to him. But yeah, last night I certainly did, and I think Colin did too, yeah, he was shattered at the end of it. But no, I think we did. Yeah.
The whole evening, because you come out and there's the kind of the teams coming out the whole evening, really, from when you arrive at the stadium, it's a different vibe than a normal game, and particularly with the crowd. Like I've been to some of the bigger men's games in Athlone. I remember the first game after COVID, there was maybe 600 or 700 people, half and half. I think it was a El Clasico from the Midlands, Longford and Athlone, and no one had been to a game in 6 months. I think there was 700 or 800 people, and people were delighted. There was nearly 3 times that there last night. Like, the scale of what you've done for a women's side, particularly, let's be honest about it, it's not the best supported gender when it comes to sport in this country. Like, you can see All Ireland semi-finals are with big counties in them, maybe at intermediate level, struggling to get a couple of hundred. Even some league games this year haven't cracked 100 people at them. To do that kind of out of nowhere, really, is really, really impressive. Going forward, the game at the weekend, Croatian opposition. Do you know much about them? Have you had as much a chance to look up what's happening in Croatia? It's the first time champions. They haven't been in Europe before. Does that play into your plans?
We haven't got as much detail, to be honest, on them as we had on Cardiff. Much tougher to get footage. We have some, but we won't have as much homework done. But I suppose at this stage, when you're turning around so quickly, it can be difficult to do that anyway, as you know, Breffney. So I think when you're in that situation, you really have to focus more on yourself. We just need to keep things right. We got it. The girls got everything right the other night. But look, they're seeded no much better than we are. They were seeded in this mini group. So that would suggest that there's not going to be much between the sides. We just hope that our key players turn up again and do what they did for us in LOIWomen last night.
There was a lot of talk going into the first game about injuries, players being doubts. Is it a relief just to see the players sort of come through the game, especially the ones like you look at Izzy Groves hadn't played since the Terran Euro game, Maddie coming off against Galway, Kelly coming off against Treaty, and even Roisin last night getting clipped in the back of the Achilles. Is it a bit of a relief though when you see sort of players just coming through and they're okay at the end of it?
Yeah, look, we had to obviously manage Maddie and Kelly Brady in particular over the last 2 weeks or so. But to be honest, it wasn't managing them for Champions League because people can get wrapped up in the Champions League thing and it's brilliant, but we're trying to win a league title, which is probably more important. This is almost a bonus territory, but so we had to manage them for the league as much as anything. And we had them right last night. You could see that we did bring Kelly off first. The game was done. We were 4 up and we chatted and we just said, you know what, we get her off, we mind her so that we can be guaranteed hopefully 90 minutes again. And she felt great, so she's really good about it. Maddie the same. She's done the damage. Let's get her off a little bit earlier and mind her. And so everything worked out. Izzy Groves came in. Thought she did pretty well for us. And she, as you said, she missed for a girl that hasn't played a lot of football in the last number of weeks. Did really well. Scored her, I think, third competitive goal. I think she got 2 in the cup against Terran. So her first competitive goal to get it in Europe for a captain was a fantastic thing.
Yeah, no, it really, really, everything was really positive last night. There's so few negatives you could possibly even take out of the whole experience. That put neck on the block. Can you get through the game at the weekend? You go in kind of as favourites, maybe? Yeah,
someone told me last night, I'm not into betting and stuff, but someone said we were 1-11 on or something mad. I don't know.
Well, you're not that. I wouldn't have given you that, to be fair. But 3-1.
Cardiff were 13-1, 13-1 last night before the game.
Okay, right, yeah. So look at I think we can go through, but I'm not going to tell you categorically we will, because again, they probably know a little bit more about us now because there's very little. We've nothing really from Wyscout on them. They can pick up everything we've done, every player, every clip for the last probably 5 seasons on Wyscout. So they'll know a little bit more about us. But sometimes you can go down into a bit of a rabbit hole and overcomplicate things and forget about your own game and your own strengths. So, but I'm confident that we can put in a good performance. Like Colin, as I said, has done fantastic work with the group this year. And the girls at this stage are getting to know their jobs. And once they deliver on those and we don't get kind of distracted, we're a difficult side to beat. We're unbeaten in the league so far this season. Obviously, we did different things in the All-Ireland Cup. To be honest, it wasn't a priority because the Champions League coming. We've the back game against Shelburne, which is going to be a massive thing. So we weren't. Look, we know we can, on our day, we can win this game. I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. I hope. I've one little story there. Unless Aaron, you've got a question for me?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask us on that in terms of the players though. Like, what's it like when you bring them back in this morning for a bit of a recovery session? What was the mood like? How do you sort of rebalance to get back onto it? Because I know some of them sort of said, okay, last night is over after the game, but how do you make sure that sort of it's gone now? You enjoyed it last night, full focus on Saturday.
Yeah. And you only have to deal with that if you detect that it's an issue. And you know what? It wasn't. It hasn't been they're so grounded. Players like Hannah Wesh, I mean, what a midfielder, what a player. And she just she's a 9 out of 10 every week for me. And I am going to say it, I think she's the best player in the league. But she's been fantastic and, so consistent. But there's no airs and graces. There's nothing. They enjoy that. They enjoy the engagement with the fans. They enjoy the stuff with yourself after the game and that. But they're back in today just doing they're in the lake at Coulson Point, very close to where I grew up. And they had breakfast at the Lockery Inn, who sponsored a bit of stuff for us. And, but there was no real chat about the game. It was just very chill. They're just a very grounded bunch of girls, So like I said, it wasn't really an issue. It's not something that we've ever had to say, hey, come down off our high horses. But probably sometimes you nearly get them to believe a bit more in themselves, actually, be the opposite, Aaron, almost,
Yeah, I just say 15 years ago I was where you were, or where you are at the moment, preparing for a final game against Croatian opposition. We found ourselves 3-0 down after 17 minutes, so hopefully you get a better start than we did 15 years ago. We did win the game, though. I will say that we came back to win. But listen, I'm sure Saturday afternoon is going to be fantastic for the club, win, lose or draw. But we're all, from this point of view, hoping that you take that victory and move on to the next stage. Just to clarify, you may have a better idea than we have an understanding of it because it's a bit muddy.
Yeah.
If you do win on Saturday, you need to come first or third in that mini group to progress. Is that correct?
Second, so what happens is if we did win on Saturday, we'll go into a 4-team group. FC20 are the hosts of that group. So it'll be semi-final, final type of scenario. And the winners of that group continue on the Champions League path. And the winners of that group go into a 2-legged scenario. And if they win that game, they go into a Champions League group. But if they lose that game, they drop back into the Europa League. So the teams that come second and third in this next group, if we make it, go straight down into a 2-legged tie to remain in the Europa League, the new Europa League. If we progress to this group, and if we were unlucky enough to come fourth, that's our European adventure over for this year, unfortunately. Yeah.
So that's more or less.
You were nearly right.
Nearly right. Yeah, we did a bit of research. We couldn't quite muddy the
it's difficult. Even when we saw the matrix of the results and the fixtures, what happens, it took us a while to work it out. But yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, it seemed like second place continue, but I'm not quite sure. Anyway, we are where we are.
I know where I'll be on Saturday now, and it won't be in a Dublin game.
We'll see, Aaron. We'll see. There's 48 hours to go before that.
You're wearing black and blue, Aaron. I'm impressed.
Pardon?
I wore
a black hat and a blue top. I'm impressed.
I wore baby blue last night.
He's wearing Athlone colours. You've gone for the work attire. Keep
I'm promoting TOS here. Brand ambassador for TOS.
Yeah, keep the day job happy as well. Gordon, listen, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. We won't hold you for much longer. You've got a lot of things to be doing, organising tickets, I'm sure, for people. If you're looking for tickets, get in touch with Gordon. He knows people who can.
There's only about 600 emails come in here in the last 10 minutes. Okay.
It's probably sold out already. That's probably why.
Very close. Very close.
Gordon, listen, if you are listening to the show and you're live, if you're on a repeat, you probably will already be too late. We're expecting that sold out sign to go up at some stage tomorrow, you say, Gordon, maybe overnight. So do get in, buy the tickets now if you want to go. Please go. Support the girls. Try and pull them across the line, and hopefully they'll progress to the next round. Gordon, thanks for joining us. Pleasure as always.
Guys. Yeah, thanks for your support, and you do great work promoting the women's game. So keep it up. Thanks, guys.
We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you on Saturday.
Yeah.
Gordon Brett there, Athlone Town assistant manager. Really good insight into maybe the whole workings of the club and what happens around the big nights like tonight, because those sold out signs don't go up easily. There's obviously a lot of work gone on behind the scenes, and we heard details of it there from Gordon. Your thoughts on the last night, Aaron, performance, but also what was happening around the pitch?
I'll talk about the ticket situation first, because I was on a call on Monday afternoon with the FAI and Colin Fortune and Kelly Brady, and the initial word was 1,000, then it was 1,100. To do 800, even if so even say, for example, it's 1,050 tickets gone at that stage. To do the guts of 850 tickets in 2 days in the build up to the game, that's madness. And even being there soaking in the atmosphere, even when I left last night, the car park was starting to empty. You could see people having to park their cars miles away. Somebody would think. But for me, it's just the only thing I would say, and I said it to Colin Fortune at the game. I said the only thing you'd say on the terms of Athlone, if you were to sort of nitpick a tiny bit, is they probably could have scored another 4 or 5 goals. Crowd was great, performance was brilliant. It was everything that Athlone needed, and you know what? You sort of said there earlier about crowds and stuff like that. I was in Dalymount last weekend, unbelievable atmosphere, and that was a bit of both sides. But in Athlone, it was as good, and you felt how much it sort of meant to the people of Athlone to actually to have that opportunity. And like even speaking to players, I know we'll hear from Roisin, and like Roisin was sort of saying about like when she walked out. I was just impressed with everything that happened and everything around the night. And I think Athlone taking the gamble on hosting it. If 200, 300, 400 fans had shown up there, is it a success? No, absolutely not. Gordon telling us that they think they'll be sold outside, so it's go up on the Friday, which is tomorrow, the day before the game. Unbelievable.
I can't see any reason. I can't see any reason why someone who was at the game on Wednesday and bought a ticket from the area hasn't already got their ticket.
Yeah,
on Saturday. It was as good a night as you can get at an event like that. From the general public, know nothing about women's football. And I'm being a little bit flippant there, but you get the idea. Those people aren't at games every week. We know because we're seeing the numbers. They're just not there. So for them to show up, have such a good experience. The game was good. The atmosphere was good. The energy was phenomenal from the whole game. Now, you've already mentioned I came in a little bit later than everyone else. I was still there well in time for a kickoff, Aaron. I don't know what you're talking about.
25 past 7.
I was there before the anthem. But into the to get in and kind of get that feeling of the crowd and the buzz, and the queue to get in was back to out of the car park outside.
I assume you didn't even get the fancy match day ticket, did you?
I didn't even get a press pass. That I'd given away my press pass when I got there. I'm not quite sure.
They probably thought you weren't even coming. Even the match programs, were gone pretty quickly. Like even looking at like these are cool. The match day tickets, like for me, like I've had the opportunity to watch Women's Champions League home and abroad. I've had the chance to watch Irish teams play even up north, and in terms of an Irish team, nothing compares to last night in terms of an Irish team in the Champions League.
I'm going to have to disagree with you on a personal note, because that might have been the most recent win, but the first win in the Champions League for me was the highlight, probably because I was involved.
That's completely different from being involved for people. 100%. 100%. Like I really enjoy. I remember, like, even I know they didn't win the game, but I really enjoyed Raheny United against Bristol Academy in Pats, and like there's been some really, really good highlights. Wexford Youths playing up north against Ajax. Got to some really good ones, but to the credit to the Athlone people, and I think people will realise, maybe get there a little bit earlier on Saturday. But don't forget, for those who are going to the game, it's not a 7:30 kickoff on Saturday.
Yeah,
4 o'clock kickoff.
4 o'clock kickoff.
So it's much earlier in the day.
Yeah, but it'll be brighter. It'll be a bit more of a party atmosphere, a bit earlier for some of the younger supporters to get out and get your tickets, is all we're trying to say on that. Let's move on from the Champions League, because we could talk about it for another half an hour.
We'll listen to Roisin first before we move on, will we?
Yeah, so let's listen to what Roisin had to say. You spoke to Roisin immediately after the game last night, and she was just happy, beaming from ear to ear. Here's what she had to say.
Roisin Molloy, what a night. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Can't explain the atmosphere here, all the fans coming out, and just a brilliant performance from everybody. So we're absolutely delighted.
From start to finish, you literally went at them, showed them, what Athlone are capable of and what you can do. You're involved in everything.
Yeah, it's just like we just decided that we were going to go out and try and show what we were about and try and attack the game. you know, we love playing attacking football, and we wanted to show that now tonight in the Champions League. And yeah, just delighted with how it all went, and I thought everybody was unbelievable tonight.
You had a hand on all the goals.
Yeah, I don't know, just the way it worked tonight, but yeah, I thought everyone, the way that the girls worked it out from the back through the middle, I thought Hannah was unbelievable in the middle, and yeah, just a real team effort, but yeah, delighted.
A lot of the play when you went wide, both sides, they just couldn't handle you. Was that something you had looked at?
Yeah, I think we always like playing attacking football, and me and Maddie love getting the ball out wide and getting it in the box, and we always know that Hazel and Kelly Brady are going to be in there, so yeah.
Talk to us about some of the runs that you made, especially in the first half, because you were getting players into great positions with your deliveries after the run. Did you just see that, and then just because you just kept going and going and going, you must have realised how much on top you were against your opposite number?
Yeah, I think Colin just told us tonight to go out and enjoy it and play with no fear, and I think that was the main message. So we went out with no nerves and no fear and just want to express ourselves, and yeah.
For someone who's been here a long time, scoring a Champions League goal for Athlone Town, not one, but two, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's really special, like, to think of where we came in 2020, 2021. It's been an amazing journey, and we've just grown year on year, and there's been so many unbelievable people involved. Thinking back to last year, all the people that got us here, and then yeah, just to come out this year and show what we're about. We just can't wait to keep going now on to Saturday. We have another huge game that we can't wait for.
How do you sort of contain the excitement off the back of tonight going into a game on Saturday?
Yeah, look, tonight's finished now. Like, we'll enjoy it tonight, and thank the fans for coming out, and we hope that they'll be here again with us on Saturday. But yeah, look, we'll get back tomorrow and analyse the game where we can improve, and look at the Croatian team and see where we can try and exploit them, and look at their strengths and weaknesses.
If you were to give a message to the fans here tonight, how big could another big crowd be on Saturday for that performance?
Yeah, it's massive. We need every single person back here on Saturday. The lift they gave us, I actually can't explain it. When we came out, it was just unbelievable. Yeah, an unbelievable experience just to have everyone here.
Well done, Roisin.
Roisin Molloy there, telling us all about her thoughts at the game last night. She's in action 4 o'clock Saturday. Get your tickets as soon as possible. We can't repeat that enough. Let's talk about Tuesday night, and we did prep it on the show on Monday. Another big night, and I suppose the fact that we're only getting to this 3/4 of an hour into the show tells you how good the Athlone Town result was last night and performance was last night. Steph Zambra made her debut as Shamrock Rovers manager, and she couldn't really have asked for as good a start as she got. 7-1 winners over Waterford. It's some performance. Talk about new manager bounce.
I think it's a record. It's a record win as well for them, as far as I know. I don't want to say this and sort of. I don't when I say this, I'm not trying to be bad towards Waterford, but probably could have been more. Rovers were in that much control in the first half. They had so many chances. They didn't necessarily take them all. I thought young Anna Butler was brilliant for them. Ella Kelly was superb as well. And like Rovers take the lead, and then when they grab the second, you think, okay, they might grab a third, maybe grab a fourth before the break, and then Wexford did well to sort of contain them at that stage, and then Wexford get the penalty going in just before half time, and you started thinking at that stage, okay, game back on. It's a clear penalty. It looks as though Jamie Thompson sort of pushes the defender over. Initially, the commentators sort of thought it was Emily Corbett, but it's actually Jamie Thompson who seems to commit the foul. And then I don't know what Stephanie Zambra said at half time, but the way that Roberts team came out in the second half, that clinical spell, I think it was 53 to 60 odd, where they scored 4 goals and just put the game to bed. I thought even at one stage it nearly looked as though they were going to sub Emily Corbett, and then all of a sudden she just springs to life and bangs a hat-trick. I thought Emily was superb for them. I think if you look at that Rovers performance, it's 100% the best Rovers performance that they've had all season. Is it sort of the opposition yeah, maybe it wasn't the strongest opposition in the league, but you can only for Stephanie, you can only beat what's in front of you on that first night, and I'm sure she probably had some nerves, some jitters in advance of it, and I think she's I think she's seventh or eighth female manager in the league at this stage, and I think it's congratulations. I think it's great for her. She got off to a great start, and she talked very positively after the game when I listened to her on Shamrock Rovers interview, talking about wanting to get the players to play with a smile, play football, and like she had a couple of training sessions with them. She said so that would sort of tell me she potentially came home between.
She did, yeah. She mentioned that in the interview that you're kind of referencing there, that claimed she was the first manager in the league, or one of the first female managers in the league. She said she came home, took a couple of sessions, went back out for the final before she came home for the game. So and she said, by her own admission in that interview with Shamrock Rovers, she basically said it wasn't the ideal circumstances around it in terms of the timelines and her other commitments that she couldn't really get out of. But I'll tell you, if you can have that disrupted build up to any game and get that kind of result, you'd nearly go away every week.
It was a different performance. It was sort of like she didn't tweak an awful lot because obviously she didn't have a lot of time to tweak very much. But I think the biggest thing for her is can she get the Ella Kellys, the likes of the Anna Butlers? I thought Claire O'Reilly was superb for them as well. Can she get them sort of players firing on all cylinders? If she can, there's no doubt they can win big games. They can win games. And I gotta say this: if you're a Rovers fan and Shamrock Rovers get beaten on Saturday against Wexford, you take nothing of it. It's still only another 2 sessions you probably have to be able to have, considering they played Tuesday night, not being able to do an awful lot going into a big game. But I think it's probably going to take a couple of weeks for it to sort of get that bit of a stamp on that team. But listen, it was a very good start, and it was a really, really good performance, really, really dominant performance from Shamrock Rovers. And like, if I'm Stephanie, I'm very happy. You walk out of Tallow on Tuesday evening, delighted with life after that performance. But it's a start, and it's maybe that it also gives her that little bit of extra confidence, the sort of nature of the performance, because if they'd have laboured there to maybe a 2-1 win or a 1-0 win where they sort of struggle, she might have asked, was this the right decision? But you know what? We said it last week. We said it earlier in the week. It's a free hit for her. I think she's sort of shown about what she wants to do with them, and if she can get them players playing with a smile, I think they can definitely be disruptive in the second half of the season.
They win down in Waterford or in Wexford at the weekend. They go third in the table. Potentially, you'd expect Shells to win down at Cork, but potentially with it one eye further up the table, can they catch? I know it's a big gap and there's only 9 games left for Rovers, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility. If Athlone and Shells take points off each other, you could see them maybe sneak in if they can keep that kind of form up. Are they that good, or is this likely to fade off a little bit, the bounce?
It's likely to fade off a little bit. They have got quality players in their side. I think for them, like if you look at our next 5 league games after this, she's obviously got Wexford, Galway, Sligo, Peamount, Athlone, Bows. It's a really, really tough run of games. It's going to test her as well. Plus, you also add in that FAI Cup semi-final against quarterfinal against Shelbourne in Talca Park. Like I was saying last night, speaking to people, I was like, that Shells fans, she's a love-hate relationship with Shells. She'll be tested in Talca Park that night in terms of her, because they'll do everything to try and put her off, distract her. I think we'll see an awful lot of where Stephanie's managerial style is going to be like in the next couple of weeks, and they could easily go of them next 5 league games. They could easily go and win 5 of them. Then again, they could easily win 1, win 2, and they have the squad that's capable of beating anybody on their day. It's just if Shamrock Rovers can be consistent, she could win 4 or 5 of them games.
Do you take much insight from Anya O'Gorman doubling her tally for the season? 2 goals going into the game, 4 afterwards. Is that a positive sign for that duo who know each other so well?
I think it's an interesting one because, like, I'd sort of been a bit critical earlier in the season, but then there was other factors off the field that would have been having a little bits of distraction on Anya. And he sort of hasn't really kicked on. But then we're seeing that with other more older players in the league this year, maybe where they're not having as much success as they had in the previous years. The question is if Anya doesn't have a good game, will we see her close friend and manager potentially taking her off. That's the interesting one, how that dynamic is going to work, because that's a friendship that's there for a good 15, 20 years. That'll be an interesting, it'll be tested. It'll be well and truly tested. And I think Anya will want to do well for Stephanie. I think Anya will want to do well for Stephanie. I think Anya will want to do well for Shamrock Rovers. I think no matter what happens, whether Stephanie is successful and keeps the job, I think Anya O'Gorman will eventually end up in that Shamrock Rovers coaching system, whether it be down the underages, working her way up. So I think there's she'll have a lot of loyalty to Shamrock Rovers there, and I think she'll want to do well for herself and finish strong. And it could be the last year of Anya. Who knows? Like, she'll want to go out on a high note if it is, or if it's not, she'll want to prove that she's capable of still scoring goals at that level.
Yeah, I think if she keeps scoring goals like she did on Tuesday night, that discussion won't have to happen between the two buddies. Let's take a quick look at the league table in terms of where the teams lie going into this round of games. And we have, if I can add it here, let me do it now. Apologies, it's not letting me do it now. Here we go. So we have Athlone Town, as you mentioned, top of the table. They don't play this weekend in the league because of that Champions League fixture. Shells do have the opportunity to go top of the table on goal difference if they were to beat Cork in their away game on Saturday afternoon. Wexford, Shamrock Rovers, they do battle in Ferry Carrick Park as well, while Galway 1 point behind on 23 points. Treaty United, they're on 22 points, and then a bit of a gap emerging between the top 6 and the rest of the bunch. Bows doing the rest to keep in touch, 6 points behind on 16. Peamount a game behind 13. DLR the same, 10 points at total. Waterford, despite that defeat at the weekend or on Tuesday night, are on 9 points, while Cork City on 7, with Sligo Rovers propping up the table on 5 points at the bottom of the table. In terms of the fixtures,
just before I go on to the fixtures there, I'd expect Bows to close that gap up as the time goes, especially if we look at like three extra games played to Bows. I think Bows will close that gap up, and I think if you're to ask me about, and you said to me about Shamrock Rovers getting potentially back into that mix with the top 2, I think teams like Bows, Wexford, they're going to be vital. Like and the other side of it as well is Athlone still have to play Shamrock Rovers. Shelbourne still have to play Shamrock Rovers. The interesting one, and I don't know whether you've actually looked at this, even if Rovers aren't in a league title contention towards the end of the season, the last day of the season in Athlone Stadium.
Let's skip ahead. Shells
versus Shamrock Rovers in the last day of the season. Shells are going into their needing a result. That's the one where so I think Rovers, next couple of weeks will tell us an awful lot about Rovers.
Yeah, it's interesting times ahead. That's probably all we have really time for the week in terms of the fixtures. Before, just to wrap up, if you had to put your neck on the block, the 5 games, and I suppose we'll throw the Champions League game in there as well. Aaron, your thoughts on who's going to come out with the 3 points in each game?
I think Galway will be Peamount. I think Wexford and Shamrock Rovers will be a draw. Shells will beat Cork. Waterford will beat Sligo, and Bows will beat DLR.
That's a big call with the Waterford Sligo game. I think
I would love to say Sligo, but I just think Sligo's consistency, and I'd love to see Sligo win the game. I'd love to see, and it's just away from home. It's probably the longest journey of the league season.
Yeah, it would be one of them. Anyway, Waterford or Cork. Actually, probably not as far as Cork, or as awkward as Cork. The roads from Sligo to Cork are pretty horrendous for the early parts of it anyway, down as far as Galway. Yeah, interesting to see how that pans out over the coming days or so. But at the same time, 4 o'clock, Athlone Town is where we'll be for that game, Aaron. I think it's going to be an absolute cracker. Thoughts on the Champions League? Will we see Athlone put themselves in the frame for progression to the knockout stages by getting to the second round?
Perform like they performed last night, they'll be very, very hard to beat.
Do they have to be a bit more ruthless?
Yes. I think they'll have to take more. I don't think they'll get as many chances on Saturday, but they'll definitely have to take them.
The one that stands out for me, and it kind of sums up the second half for Athlone last night, was Maddie Gibson's opportunity, but just before she came off. Roisin Molloy, great run down the right. Everybody heading towards the goal, and Molloy took her time. The composure was phenomenal. And she just picked out Maddie Gibson on the penalty spot. Gibson should have hit it first time, took about 4 touches, and the effort went tamely wide in the end. Normally, we'd see Gibson hit the back of the net and celebrate with a goal.
The one thing for me is Athlone switched off in the second half because they knew they didn't need to go full pelt at that stage. It was more of a case of they were just controlling things.
Yeah.
And that was, to me, that was the big thing for me. Was they were just controlling. Like if you look back, I'm struggling to even think of a save Athlone had to make.
The one trickled into her later on in the game, but little to
no.
There
was no major save. There was no major save in the entire 90 minutes. I just thought Athlone were brilliant. They'll have to be more ruthless on Saturday, 100%.
Well, listen, we shall see you on Saturday, and if you're at the game, do come and say hello. We look forward to Athlone Town's second outing of the week. If it's anywhere nearly as good as it was on last night, it's going to be an absolutely cracking game again. Do get your tickets early. It's going to sell out sooner rather than later. We will talk to you again at our normal time next week and look back at the whole weekend's action. Talk to you then.